Welcome to this deep dive. Today we're focusing on the life and career of Val Kilmer. You flagged a recent report about his passing at 65, and it felt like a good moment to, well, really unpack his presence in cinema.
Absolutely, yeah. We've got that report, some retrospectives and interviews. The goal isn't just a timeline, but more the essence of his impact, right?
Exactly. Moving beyond just the headlines, because when you look at his filmography, it's quite something. A real range.
It really is. It's a series of transformations almost. His passing makes you kind of reflect on the moments that really defined him for us.
Okay, so let's maybe start with the personal context. The reports confirm Val Kilmer passed away on Tuesday in Los Angeles. It was due to pneumonia, which was actually a complication after his recovery from throat cancer. He was diagnosed back in 2014.
Yeah, knowing that, it definitely puts his later work into a different perspective, doesn't it?
It really does. It speaks to a certain resilience, I think. Still working despite, major health challenges.
For sure, a commitment to the craft. Now, thinking back, way back to the beginning, his debut was in Top Secret in 1984. The comedy.
Oh, yeah, the rock and roll singer in the Cold War spoof.
Hmm.
It's almost like deceivingly light compared to some later roles.
Totally. He's so charismatic, but it's pure comedy. Did you see any hints then of the intensity he'd become known for later? Or was it just charm?
That's a good question. At the time, it just felt like charm, really. But maybe looking back, there's a commitment even to the silliness.
Yeah.
He fully goes for it.
That's true. He doesn't hold back. Which makes his jump to Jim Morrison in Oliver Stone's The Doors in '91 just whoa.
Yeah, talk about a shift. That wasn't just playing a rock star. That felt like channeling someone.
It really did. The preparation for that was apparently immense. Months spent getting the voice, the mannerisms. It was uncanny.
It solidified him as someone who could embody these huge, iconic figures. And then, just a couple years later, he's kind of imagined Elvis in True Romance. Another legend, but such a different vibe.
Right. It shows that versatility early on. The 90s were packed for him. You had Thunderheart in '92, the FBI agent on the reservation. Pretty serious stuff.
And then The Saint in '97, more of a slick thriller. And squeezed in between. Batman Forever in '95.
Ah, yes. Donning the batsuit, that was a huge deal, obviously. But the reception was a bit mixed, wasn't it? I remember reading the New York Times thought it was maybe too much spectacle.
Yeah, it definitely leaned into the Schumacher aesthetic. Big villains, Two-Face, and the Riddler. How do you think he handled being, the center of that kind of massive production?
Well, it's interesting. Even within that visual overload, he brought a certain brooding quality to Bruce Wayne. Different from Keaton, different from those who came later. He found something in it.
He did. And you contrast that with Iceman and Top Gun from '86.
Yeah.
That cocky rival energy.
Oh, absolutely. That rivalry with Maverick is legendary. It obviously stuck with people, given how excited they were to see him back in Top Gun.
Yeah, just decades later.
Yeah.
Really shows the impact of that character. And for so many people, his Doc Holliday in Tombstone.
Yeah.
That's the role.
Oh, completely. I'm your Huckleberry. That performance is just magnetic, the weariness, the wit. It's brilliant.
It really is. And he was in other great stuff around then, too, like Heat with De Niro and Pacino, The Ghost in the Darkness.
He held his own in those ensembles. And later, he stretched even further, playing historical figures. Willem de Kooning in Pollock, Philip of Macedon in Alexander, shows ambition.
Definitely shows range. What about his reputation? We hear things intense, dedicated, maybe difficult sometimes.
Yeah, the sources touch on that. David Mamet apparently loved how he made dialogue sound spontaneous, like he just thought of it.
That suggests a deep dive into the character's head, right?
Exactly. But then Oliver Stone acknowledged he could be complex. And Robert Downey Jr. mentioned they clashed initially on Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, but became friends. It paints a picture of someone deeply invested, maybe uncompromising sometimes.
Passionate about the process, maybe? It sounds like he brought a real friction, maybe, that made the performances stand out.
Could be. That intensity wasn't just for show. The reports also mentioned his early life, born in L.A., knew Kevin Spacey and Mare Winningham way back.
And the tragedy with his younger brother, Wesley, passing away young, that must have had a profound impact.
Absolutely. You can't know for sure how those things directly influence acting choices, but deep personal experiences, they shape your emotional landscape. Maybe some of that depth, that understanding of fragility came through.
It adds another layer. So, wrapping this up, Val Kilmer's career wasn't simple. It was marked by these iconic roles, intense dedication, and undeniable versatility.
From rock gods to Batman to Doc Holliday, he really left a mark. That commitment to transformation is pretty remarkable.
It really is. So having revisited all this, is there one performance or maybe an aspect of his career that stands out to you now in a new way?
Hmm. Maybe it's just that consistent drive to fully become the character. Whether it was a blockbuster or a smaller film, that intensity seems to have always been there. That dedication is what resonates most for me right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. And for everyone listening, as you think about his work, what performance or moment kind of hits differently now? Something to consider the legacies these artists leave behind.